Well, the uncertainty of today's announcement has impacted our stock market for several weeks. You know that if you've been following your 401k. The market, though, closed in the green today. The Dow was up, take a look, 235 points right here. The markets, we should point out, closed before the announcement was made, but Wall Street and analysts alike, they knew this news was coming. Shares of companies that are big importers, for example, did show some losses today. Nike, for example, was down 6%, while General Motors was down 3%. The auto industry, we mentioned that. It's expected to be one of the most impacted industries in the coming months, and we're already kind of seeing a shift, if you will. March was a big month for car companies as they saw a spike in sales. Take a look here behind me. I want to show you an example of that. I mean, GM up 17%, Kia 13%, Ford 10, Toyota 8, Hyundai 13, Honda 13%. Tom Maoli is here to kind of dive into this a little bit further with us now. Tom Maoli, rather, he owns several luxury car dealerships in New Jersey. Tom, I'm sorry about that. I knew your last name.
Let's see, that's okay.
What do you expect from this, sir? Because Trump also announced a 25% tariff across the board on all foreign-made cars.
Yes, listen, it's on foreign-made cars, but it's not going to help the domestics. The domestic stocks are all crashing. Ford, Stellantis, GM, they all buy their parts from overseas. 50% of the parts that go into these cars are from overseas. So it's going to cost the same spike is going to increase on those. Listen, President Trump's a brilliant man. I know him personally, and obviously he knows what he's doing. But I think he should reconsider his position, and this should be done with a carrot and not a stick. He should offer tax incentives and interest-free loans, and these manufacturers will start building plants in the U.S. without these tariffs. Right now, I don't think the consumer can handle the increases that these tariffs are going to bring, and we haven't recovered from COVID inflation. The Fed has interest rates at 8%, and they're trying to drive down demand because we're still in an inflationary period, and this is just going to drive it up higher. If we don't bring these interest rates down, we can't get this economy moving. We can't get the housing market moving. We're frozen.
Tom, you mentioned that these tariffs will bring increases. Do you have a dollar amount of potentially how that could affect someone buying one of your vehicles, for example? And I want to throw this out at you because
Yes.
there are several options here, right? Because and again, I don't know what cars you sell, but if you sell Mercedes and Mercedes decides to say, hey, you know what, we're gonna take a hit on some of these tariffs, but then we're gonna pass a little bit on to the consumer. What do you expect from the car manufacturers, and how will that impact me as I go shopping for my next vehicle?
Well, listen, the average price of a vehicle in the United States of America is now $40,000. At 25% tariff, you're talking about a $10,000 increase. If you have to finance that, it's about $30 a thousand. You're talking about your car payment, which just went up $300. That's devastating to the consumer, and I think we have to figure out how we deal with that. Some manufacturers will eat some of that, but I think most of it is going to get passed on to the consumers. We're going to cause more inflation. And like I said, I think he needs to reconsider his position, and he should do it with a carrot and not a stick. If he gave interest-free loans and zero federal tax in special zones across the United States of America, these manufacturers would be diving to build factories, running to build factories in the U.S. because they wouldn't have to pay tax. They'd have interest-free loans, and manufacturing would boom in the U.S. And we wouldn't be affecting the consumer the way we're affecting them now. And we would drive up the supply, which is the whole issue in the interest rate cycle. It's not a demand issue. It's a supply issue. We need to bring up supply. Supply's been down since COVID,
right.
And that's what's causing inflation.
But Tom, how much do you think will actually, of the 25% tariff, how much of that do you think will actually go to the consumer? Because we've known this is coming, right? So I'm guessing that you've been in touch with some of the automakers, and you're like, hey, how is this going to work? Because I've got cars to sell.
Yeah, listen, unfortunately, we are, pre-COVID, we had 60, 90, 120 days worth of inventory on the ground in the ports across the country. We don't have that anymore. Inventories are down, production's down. So we're talking about a 30, 45-day cycle. When we burn through that inventory that's at the old numbers, it's going to start hitting the consumer. And I think it's going to happen fast. I think in 30 days, you're going to see these 25% increases, pushed onto the consumer. And you know what? It's not just if they can hold back and not purchase a new car, but if they're not purchasing, they have to fix it. They have to put brakes, tires, and repair their vehicles to keep them on the road, get their families to school, get to work, and it's going to cost them the same 25% no matter which way they turn.
All right. Tom Maoli. I'd love to hear back from you in a few months, sir, because I really want to know how this is impacting your business. Best of luck. And again, thank you for the time tonight. We do appreciate it. You bet.